Hard times.
Great times.
Thank you so much, Megan.
Day job? Night job.
I know.
For
no.
me?
Anyone who wants a slice, there's no meat there.
Good times.
Help yourself. Give it up for Megan. Give it up for everyone who's been up here.
Oh, yeah. Woo! What a hard time.
I think is it our best show? We're the friends of the show. Is this our best show?
Yeah.
I actually do think it is.
Woo!
I do think it is. Hard times. Yeah. You know what? Listen, I don't want you to think that I've had a hard life. I haven't had a hard life. I have had to do a couple of hard things in my life. My first work assignment, and my friend Kevin here is a sports writer, he can give you an idea of what this is like. My first travel assignment for work, I had to go to the Dallas Cowboys training camp, and I had to secure an interview with Tom Landry, who was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, which in Texas would be like trying to get an audience with the Pope. Anyways, I had no idea the etiquette that was involved with this and none of the formalities. I ran all over the Cowboys complex. And I was doing a profile of a Canadian guy on the Cowboys. And I went in areas that weren't authorized for media or public. And I went into a private area and Tom Landry was there. So I grabbed him by the vestment and I said, Tom, I need you for a photo and an interview. Come with me. Right?
Wow.
I mean, yeah, that is like twisting the arm of the Pope. Hard times, yeah. I actually right across the street here is where I used to do karate, and I remember going for my black belt test, and my buddy, who I had done karate with for years, was throwing up in the can, and he was a TTC driver, and I was like, Norm, like, are you gonna be good to go? And he was like, I've never felt so much pressure in my life. And I said, Norm, you drive a subway with 200 passengers every morning. I hope you feel pressure then. You know, it's like his legs caught in the door. What's the worst thing that can happen? But no, the hardest time of my life was the summer of '84. I used to box. Back in '84, I fought professionally. A good friend of mine who I just connected with this week, I boxed him 2-3 rounders. I lost a couple of decisions. He actually was in the ring with a guy who lost 3 title fights, one of them to Julio Cesar Chavez. So it's like, really, it's 2 degrees of separation from like a Hall of Fame boxer.
Woo!
Yeah.
Whoa. Good.
But back in the summer of '84, I fought professionally, but I hadn't boxed in about 6 years. In the summer of '84, I was a bouncer. And so this is the learnings, the knowledge that I acquired from being a bouncer back when. And these are words of advice to those of you who might actually consider this a career choice. Number 1. Never answer an ad that reads, "Help wanted, bouncer." Okay? Not a greeter, like Walmart. Not a doorman, not even security or bodyguard. Bouncer, right? That is an expectation that you're gonna fight, right? It's a shitty job. There's no medical or dental. You'll need it. And there's no pension plan or retirement fund. You'll never make it.
Yeah.
Number 2, never take a job as a bouncer in a bar with a name that spells trouble. I worked at the Shamrock Tavern. The Irish have a cultural need to fight. Right? I know that that's a terrible, terrible stereotype. But let's face it, I am a terrible, terrible stereotype. You have a problem with that? Number 3, never take a job as a bouncer in an Irish bar that seats 299. Okay? According to Stats Canada, 1 out of 6 Canadian citizens is a complete asshole. And that's not adjusted for jobless high school dropouts. I worked at the Shamrock, which was at Coxwell and Gerrard. It was a watering hole for Ontario housing. I used to call it a country and welfare bar. Number 4, never take a job as the only bouncer in a bar that seats 299. So, I was the only bouncer on a shift. Going to work was like getting into the ring and seeing opponents in the other 3 corners. Right? It was sort of like the Royal Rumble, except when you got tossed over the top rope, you were expected to go into the ring to finish your shift. Number 5. Oh God, this is a good one. Never take a job as the only bouncer at an Irish bar that seats 299, glue sniffers among them. All right, I worked in a bar with glue sniffers. Now, it was our policy to throw out puffers, right? I didn't mind them. I didn't mind them. They weren't violent. They were barely conscious. You know, I'd rather have them stick around.
Hard times. Hard times.
I was sort of attached to them. Okay, this is a further complication. I don't know if you've detected a trend in this set. Number 6. Never take a job as the only bouncer at an Irish bar that seats 299, including glue sniffers, in the basement of a building. Okay, so now work through this with me. If you were a doorman in a ground level bar, you throw people out. But if you are in a basement bar as a doorman, your job is to throw people up, right? Which is an entirely different degree of difficulty, right? Now, it is hard with people fighting back, but I can tell you it was even hard with glue sniffers, right? I would take a glue sniffer out using the fireman's carry, right? Unless he was just caked in glue. And those guys I would have to drag up the stairs right? And I mean, that's exhausting. And every shift I could count on at least one guy who I would get at the top of the stairs. And at that point, he would roll back down the stairs to the very bottom. They were like human atlas stones, right? It was like the myth of Sisyphus. I said that to the bartender. No, I didn't. I didn't say that to the bartender. Number 7. You just think it can't get worse. Never take a job as the only bouncer at an Irish bar in a basement that seats 299, including glue sniffers, during a beer strike. Okay, now back in '84, when I was working at the Shamrock Tavern, these are different times as far as the liquor, alcohol laws go, right? You could not brew your own beer or anything like that. If you brewed your own beer, that was like operating a meth lab, right? Like you would be thrown in jail. So the beer stores were the only place that you could buy beer. The liquor store stocked one type of beer, Old Milwaukee. Now, those of you who have had Old Milwaukee will laugh about this once you get past the gag reflex. But now, the beer strike lasted 2 full months. And I remember the day that we ran out of beer, right? I remember the last crumpled can of Old Milwaukee, right? And so, I mean, in a bar that seats 299, on a decent night we'd have 200 people. That means, even using Stats Canada's numbers, there's 33 1/3 assholes in there. If they're sober, right? If they're drinking 7 and 7 and rum and cokes, it's even far worse. And I'm the only soldier on the plane. But now we get to the final installment. Never take a job as the only bouncer in a beerless Irish bar in a basement that seats 299, including glue sniffers and the Paradise Riders. Yes. Into this unpromising scenario, throw a gang load of bikers. All right? These are my hard times. So the one night I was working a shift by myself and 12 Paradise Riders walked in. And my manager said, "Tell them we're not serving them." I was like, "What?" He said, "No, they're wearing colors. It's our policy." Now, I was making $5 more than minimum wage, but this job should pay $200,000 to start back in 1984. I sorely thought about walking right past the bikers and out the door and tucking into bed and locking the doors behind me. But at that point, I made a judgment call. I went up to that table. I looked these guys up and down, right? There's 12 of them. 7 are dried up pieces of shit who don't scare me at all. 3 of them give me a good fight. And 2 of them give Mike Tyson a good fight. So I chose diplomacy. I said, "Guys, I've seen you all here before." It was true. "I've seen you all here before. You seem like really solid guys. If you guys come in next time, I will buy you a beer. But you have to understand the situation I'm in. It's our house policy. We cannot serve someone wearing colors. So I'm letting you know this. I'm going to turn my back and I'm going to walk away. And right after that, they did nothing. Nothing. They walked out. Now at that point, I thought I could broker peace in the Middle East. I could end the troubles in Northern Ireland. I could even get the beer workers back into the brewery. Anyways, I have done what many would blanch at. And after that, it was an amazingly empowering feeling. Now, my manager at the bar was quite distressed. Like the next week when I said, you know what, I think I've learned all I can from my job. Perhaps you should get someone else. And he said, you know what, I thought you had a real future here. And I was like, actually, if you told me one day this will all be yours, I'm not sold. But I can tell you that, like, having done that, standing across from a 240-pound soldier from Camp Borden in my black belt test, it was nothing. Not even tearing Tom Landry's sleeve. Anyways, thank you very much. Who am I bringing up?
You're bringing up Che.
I am bringing up?
Che, is he here?
Okay, now listen. This guy is fairly